Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
and I am Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here to talk about an Apple TV show called Widow's Bay. And as Apple does it, they released episode 1 and 2. So Tom and I are going to dive into both together. There's no way to keep it separate. At our old age, our brains are addled and details run together. So we're going to talk about both episode 1 and 2. So if you haven't watched both, maybe refrain, but I would highly recommend this show, having watched the first two. I had a lot of fun. This is a little bit different than what we are otherwise podcasting on, but it's a fun little mystery. Tom, I'm not going to lie, when you brought this up to me, I was a little bit afraid, because I'm a coward. I'm a self-proclaimed coward. I thought, horror, I don't really do well. We watched Midnight Mass a while back, which I enjoyed, but that's like the threshold, even maybe a little too scary. I enjoyed this. I thought the mix of humor and horror is a lot of fun. So I'm glad you brought this, and I'm excited to talk about it with you. I'm assuming you enjoyed it since you're the one that recommended it.
I very much did. I wasn't sure what to expect kind of going in because I, like you, am a bit of a coward. A good jump scare in this episode. Maybe not really in one, but in two, there was maybe one or two little jump scares that I did not love. But I love the show. I love the tone. To your point about Midnight Mass, it's very much in that like vein of this town in the middle, or like an island town that has a lot of like inner politics, but people are trying to, at least our main character Tom, kind of shove it aside and try to bring on a bright future. But I love the dry comedy of it. I do appreciate the horror elements, and also has like kind of Stephen King style vibes too,
Sure.
right? Like Massachusetts kind of area, but really fun show. And I think it's a fun one to podcast on because they'll have the mystery. I don't know if there's any sort of like central murder that we're trying to solve. It's just kind of more understanding what's going on in this wild town, and they've given us a boatload of clues about who we might meet in the future because it's not just one creepy clown. It seems like a bunch of stuff, so I'm here for it.
Well, I think the central mystery is initially like, hey, are any of these haunts real, or is any of this stuff real? But based on the perspective of our main character, Tom, played by Matthew Rhys, it seems to be that there is some real stuff happening, and it's certainly affecting him, unless it's all just in his head, Tom, which, who knows? Have we seen anyone else interact with any of the horror elements of this show? I don't know. I guess we can theory craft later. But let's talk Matthew Rhys. What's your relationship with him? Because I got to be honest, I was delighted with him in this show. And my experience with him is not in comedy. It's from The Americans, that FX show, which we watched several seasons of and was critically acclaimed.
I went and looked him up too, and I felt like he was very recognizable, but I don't think I've watched a show that he's been in. I know Americans was very popular, but it missed me. And but yeah, I love him, and his little dry sense of humor is fantastic on this series.
I believe he's married to Felicity in real life. I know you were a huge Felicity guy back in the day. You love some Carrie Russell. She's your favorite Mission Impossible character, if I recall. You loved when her, spoilers, kid's brain exploded. Anyways, let's move on.
Wait a minute, so they were both in Americans and they're married in real life?
I believe so. Yeah, I think.
Look at that.
I think sometimes when you work on a show, love blossoms, and then
like me and you.
You have to. You have to be married to that person forever. Okay, so, and let's just talk characters real fast. We're introduced to Tom. Took me a little while to kind of understand what his job was, but he's the mayor of this little island town, and it's definitely up in the Northeast. We've got some guys doing some great, like, Boston or Northeastern Massachusetts accents, and I was like, all right, I got it. We're probably not going to find out exactly where on a map this island is, but that's okay. We have his son. His son's name is Evan. He seems to be, the storyline is he's a bit of a troublemaker because he's bored on this island. This island's like a prison. Cool. Patricia is Tom's either like assistant, or she's like deputy mayor, or she works in his office. She works for him, I believe. And just some great dialogue between the parallels of John C. McGinley and Crystal and Rooster, and Tom and Patricia in this. I like this relationship a little bit better. And then the other big one is going to be Wick, which it's WYCK, Tom. I think that's important. You definitely know that Wick is a millennial because his parents spelled his name W-Y-C-K. But who plays Wick? He's in Office
Stephen
Space.
Root.
Okay.
Stephen Root. He's fantastic. Yeah, Office Space, Dodgeball. He plays a fantastic, I say character actor, but he plays comedy. He plays like the local kook so well in this show. He's a fantastic actor.
Yeah, I mean, you do. I don't know that this performance is very funny. He seems to be just like insane and paranoid. But it's still funny. But he's playing it relatively straight. Like he's not winking at the camera, I feel. But I enjoy him quite a bit. So
you say he's insane. I would argue he's the only sane person there.
Okay, well, I see where you and I land on this island and whose team we're on. It's either Team Tom or Team Wick. We'll make T-shirts, I would assume. So ultimately starts with kind of a fun, like you got a guy out on a boat, he's talking on the radio, and everything goes dark. We get kind of an earthquake, and this is how everything goes bad. And that gentleman's name is Shep, and that's important because we will look for Shep throughout this episode. Did you know Shep is 37 according to his chart, Tom? 37? Does that make sense to you?
That didn't seem right, and that's a fair point to bring up when Tom looks at his chart later on to see that, because he definitely clocks it too. Well, and before you get too far in the episode, I just want to clock, like, when you queue this show up in Apple and it gives you a little synopsis for the episode, they're pretty great. So, like, this first one is, and we do get an actual location here. It does say New England, but we hoped you enjoy the 3-hour ferry to New England's best-kept secret. Ignore the warnings about the fog. Everything's fine. So good.
That's great. And that's the other thing is a fog is rolled in, and this fog has some mystery behind it. We see it around Shep's boat. We see it throughout the episode. Watching shows like this, it always reminds me that you and I live in a relatively young state where we don't have like mysteries and haunts and newspapers talking about cannibalism in the church that was 300 years old, you know? Yeah. We've got, we live in Arizona, and the sun destroys everything, so nothing would last that long anyways.
Yeah,
but
or witches can't live here.
Right, witches can't live here, that's true. And also I'm thinking about Shep, and just like a life in the cold on a boat would age a 37-year-old. I'm assuming that number's wrong, but I just like to think that Shep, a young man, younger than us, Tom, was out there just living his best life on that boat and aged, I don't know, 3 times the normal human. But the level of humor and, not necessarily horror, but like kind of suspense thriller that plays in this show, they do so well. They hit the vibe, and they do a great job of introducing us into this world with like Tom's issues with his staff, him like going about, this earthquake happens, he wakes up, he goes to the room, the kid is missing. I think we got a shot of the kids like smoking in a car or something. Yeah. Once again, much like Rooster, I hope this show does not really spend a lot of time with the teenagers, but it is what it is. But the son Evan, he's out there running around on this island. I don't know, Tom, living on a small island, like knowing everyone, it sounds kind of quaint. It sounds enjoyable. Your thoughts?
Quaint, probably for somebody like in their 60s, but probably not for a teenage kid that probably wants a little bit more in life. But as we find out later, maybe he can't leave this island. So
that's fair, and that's a fun little mystery. The other major theme that's worth noting is Tom, being the mayor, has like recognized that they are an aging community and they need to bring tourism in. Like, why can't our island be a tourism destination? And you have like a lot of the locals kind of pushing up against that. And so like in this instance, we have this earthquake, all the power goes out, which in itself is terrifying. Add the fog, more terrifying. But we have this constant push-pull of Tom and these people as he's trying to get things going. And I think that's interesting. And part of that is this writer, Arthur, is coming out. And so he's got to meet this guy. And through this process, we just get the sense of, like, Tom's on one page and all of these people that work for him are not. Like, his assistant, I think, goes home at 11 to take a nap, which I thought was a funny bit. Oh, I want to make mentioned about this now. At some point, he like makes a reservation for him and Arthur, the journalist, to go to the restaurant, and he's like arguing with the restaurant guy to keep the restaurant open, and he's like, "Hey, we're coming. Don't give us Kathy." And I don't know if you caught it, but then later his waitress is Kathy, and we find out that Kathy is, let's see, not going to receive a large tip based on the service that she provides.
Agreed. Yeah, it's great. I like how he's just trying to roll out the red carpet for this guy and turn this town around. It's a great dynamic. And again, I think for a pilot, does a fantastic job of setting up him as a character and kind of like his potential haunted past. And I don't know if it's this episode or the next where he talks about like his wife, and we don't really know what the mysterious situation is with, why she's not around anymore. But I would imagine that's going to come into play.
Right. There is a subtle hint. We'll just talk about it now. At one point, he's like flipping through a calendar of wolves, and one of the pages is a vehicle that's been rolled over. Yeah. So I am assuming that his wife passed tragically, and we're going to get that. We're going to get that backstory, but that's how I read into that. Based on all of the TV I've watched in my years, that's my conjecture. And the other thing I think is very funny, and they do this well, is so this journalist is here to write about the town. He needs it to be positive, and so he's trying to shield Arthur, the journalist, from all of the weird stories. But all of these locals, like, that's their identity. So he's like in the historic society building, and she's like immediately like, "Oh, we're very proud of our witch trial. We caught him and we burned him," which was just a fantastic line. And that lady is doing such a great job of like pointing out of, hey, all of the murders and mysterious deaths that have happened on this island, leading to cannibalism. Which I thought this whole bit was very funny.
I think I saw this bit in the trailer of like the poster of cannibalism and him saying like, was it a big deal? And then you see this big, massive article. And in fact, it only took 4 days for them to become cannibals.
Right.
The whole exchange was just absolutely brilliant.
Right.
And like, we get a clock later where Arthur, what Tom eventually yells like, "Hey, watch out for the fog," or "There's something in there." So like Arthur, I think, is right away kind of picking up on this is what the town's kind of identity is, or what they're trying to push. So he thinks Tom is continuing to push this like, mystery hauntedness of the island, and that could be the tourist attraction. But Tom obviously doesn't want it to be.
No, I agree. He definitely doesn't want to be. The way Matt Rhys as the actor is like, no cannibalism, and it's like clearly like big cannibalism, and the way he like leans in and he's reading the article and moving his mouth with the words as he's like he is getting the details, and he's like, well, it only took 4 days, which I don't know, it reminds me of the old South Park episode where they get snowed into the auditorium and they immediately turn to cannibalism within like a half an hour. And yeah.
Well, it's like if you get stuck in an elevator, you got to designate a pee corner.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Dwight. Tom's vision is essentially this should be like Cape Cod. This should be a vacation destination, and so he like tells Arthur like, "Hey, you can put this in your article, like bleep Cape Cod. We want to be the next," which I found very funny, but I understand his motivation. And initially, it's interesting the way they do it, which everything has kind of a supernatural reasoning for something happening, as well as a like normal reasoning, which leads to that doubt. So like the power outage, he makes a comment about like, hey, we have an old infrastructure, things are failing. If we don't bring in revenue, like we're not going to be able to build this. And so, but you also get the sense that the power outage and the fog is also related. So I think they do a really nice job of mixing those two flavors so that you spend some time, like if you're a skeptical person, you would be like, just a weather event, the power will come back on. If you're a Wick person, which you are, you're like, oh, the devil's come for us, or it's a haunt, as he screams later on, which is great.
Yeah, and we get the same sense like later in the second episode with like the black mold, right? At the very end of the episode. It's like, oh, this could have just been hallucination from black mold as opposed to there being haunts.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even really think of that. Oh, we think that might all okay, that's fair.
But yeah, to your point though, yeah, trying to give a reasonable explanation versus a supernatural one. I think they did it again there.
Isn't this how we all spend most of our lives? We're just like, it was luck, or, it was a blessing from above. Anyways, okay, so I think this is around the time we meet Wick, and Wick is telling all of the people that, hey, Shep is missing and the fog took him, and he's really like playing up this, hey, we need to sound the siren. What's the siren doing, Tom? Does the siren keep the fog away? Does the siren tell I think the people know the fog is coming. What is the siren for? What happens?
I would assume the siren is just, I feel like every small
shelter in
island
place,
town,
maybe? I don't know.
is going to have a siren, but maybe this has a specific reasoning for the people that live on this island and know of this wild mystery. Like maybe the siren is specific to the fog and that people should, bunker in stores or indoors.
Right. And he's like, close the port, sound the siren. And we get the constant push-pull of, once again, Tom being like, listen, these are all superstitions. We don't need to do that. And honestly, when Wick is like, it's a haunt, I appreciate that quite a bit, because Tom is then like, now, is that worse than, and I don't remember the progression of like words he uses, but I don't know. Is Tom mean? Should Tom be more understanding to these crazy people that live alone on this island? I don't know.
He doesn't seem to treat his constituents very, very well, but we don't know the dynamic. I don't know what the dynamic is here, but I do love their back and forth. And it's like even early on, like we get later in the episode, and especially in 2, like he believes this, right? Like Tom does, but he's just doing everything he can to like fight back this concept of supernatural. Like when he screams later, there's something in the fog. Like he deep down in his heart believes that there's something wild going on this island, but he's trying to hide it.
Yeah, I would think he has experienced some of this stuff before. He believes in it, but yes, he's fighting against that with all of his being. And he does say in this conversation, he's like, I think people just want to be miserable and they use this island as an excuse. And so,
just like you do this podcast.
Right. Yes, exactly. What I do think is interesting is you do see a progression through this like first episode of him being like so dead set against it, like pushing Arthur away from the stories only to get to there's something in the fog. And I was, once again, I was just very impressed with Matthew Rhys and what he's doing with this character and like the pure comedy that I laughed more during this show than Rooster, Tom. I can tell you that. That's for sure. But
this is your kind of humor, though. This like dry sense of humor, and like it's not just the acting too. It's like the camera work. It's like the scene creation. It's done brilliantly. Right. We should call out like right at the top. Like the show I think is led by Katie Dippold, I believe her name is, and she's done a handful of like comedic movies and like the most recent Ghostbusters, like Haunted Mansion. And I think she was also a writer on Parks and Rec, if I'm not mistaken, too. So,
interesting.
It brings in a lot of fun humor, but certainly has a knack for like the Stephen King-ish type kind of thriller suspense.
I loved when they were sitting around and they're discussing, and he's like, Shep's going to be fine. And then the phone call rang in. And a different show would just have him be like, never mind, Shep's dead. But instead, he's like, oh, they found Shep. And the sheriff on the other line is like, what did you just tell those people? We definitely did not find him. And this is where we learn a little bit more about Sheriff Clemens, who I would assume between the mayor and the sheriff, kind of like that town in Jaws that let all those children get eaten by sharks. These two are going to spend a lot of time together. And so I like Sheriff Clemens. I like the degree of kind of like, I don't know, casual, like not that he doesn't care. He's almost like worn out. He's like, I don't know, Danny Glover in the 4th Lethal Weapon. He's like, I'm just too old for this. But he also, we get a little nod here that Tom's kid, Evan, is definitely a troublemaker, and he's one of the reasons why the sheriff has to be up all night trying to keep kids from smoking dope on the streets, you know?
Yeah, smoking, baby. Smoking back in shows. It's a new cool thing to do.
Oh, I love it. We're brought to you by Marlboro. Marlboro Whites. Nope, that doesn't. No, that sounds bad. Marlboro Reds, which is a real cigarette. Try it, kids. You'll like it. There you go. Okay, so then have this conversation, which I think this was in a preview maybe. I felt like we had seen this before, but this conversation was very funny. Her experience with the boogeyman.
Yeah, Patricia going back and forth, and then Matt Rhys kind of calling out Tom's character, saying like, oh, that guy was just killing teenagers. You're in your 40s. You should be fine. And then she walks out. He's like, how is that more upsetting? Yeah. So good.
Just the way he delivers that. He's like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's the equivalent of someone being like, oh, no, they only murder like beautiful people. You'll be fine. You're like, oh, come on. That hurts. All right. We get a little bit more of Tom and Evan. They sit down they have a little kitchen table talk after. Anytime someone's caught smoking, I will never not think of the Arrested Development, where Michael walks out and Job's smoking weed on the back, and he's like holding it in, and then he can't, so he lets out the smoke, and he goes, oh, it's cold out here. And I'll never not think of that scene whenever someone is caught smoking. But
so good. Yeah, this kid's excuse was very poor. He's like, do you know what this is? I can't remember what he said, but saying it was cold would have been a better play.
I always appreciated as a kid when I was doing something wrong, and in my mind, I was like, all right, if I get caught, like this will be the lie that I tell. But as soon as you get caught, the like utter panic, and you just say the dumbest thing that is unconvincing, that's exactly what this kid did in this moment.
Yeah.
But we find out that this spirit of smoking and trying drugs, doing the drugs, comes from the mother, Tom. And it's a little bit weird that your name is Tom and Tom the Mayor is our main character. I think you're going to have to change your name for the podcast as we work on this show.
All right. You can call me T-Bone.
T-Bone. Well, T-Bone, we find out that the adventurous spirit comes from Mayor Tom's wife, or I guess former wife. I don't think she's with us anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the name of the show is Widow's Bay, right? So Tom is a widower, right? If his wife is gone. Yeah. So, is she going to be part of the haunt or like haunting him specific? Because the other thing we don't know is like, I would imagine all these haunts that are going on, if you believe in that sort of thing, which as Team Wick, I definitely do. They just need to be people that were on this island, not necessarily like going after people that have like personal connections and relationships. But maybe we'll get that later where she will be involved in some form of a haunt directly to Tom.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how this plays out. But we do get a little bit more backstory in terms of she was, I guess, a townie, so she was from the island, and he only visited during the summers, and that's how they met. And this is where that, hey, if you're from this island, you can't leave comes into play, because he's not essentially from this island. But his son is, and I guess his wife was also. Is that how you pick that up?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. And this is also where we find out, as teenagers do, this kid's really complaining about living on this sweet, sweet island, and he's bored, and it's like a prison. And we take this as kind of teenage angst, but based on what we're told at the end of the episode, I don't know, maybe this is a feeling you get as a local there, that you literally have to live your whole life on the island. I want to ask something, Tom. Earlier, when we were at the Historical Society, they talk about the founder of the island. His name was Richard Warren. Do you think we are going to get... Let's do a little theory crafting. Do you think we are going to get like a conspiracy, or there is a old legacy and that is why like truly people can't leave the island? Is that going to be what we're trying to solve ultimately for the show?
Like, you think that initial, because was he the initial founder and mayor of the place? You think he's the one that, like, is the catalyst for everything going on? Is that the question?
Yeah, my question is he the first sin? Is he the original sin that caused some sort of curse, which has caused people to be trapped on this island? Do we get that deep into the lore in this episode? I don't need us to, but I thought it was very interesting that they like pointed out that guy was our original founder. They like show a picture of him rowing a boat, which
Right.
I can't imagine if it's a 3-hour ferry, how long it takes to singly row a boat. We just watched an old movie called Dead Calm with Sam Neill and Nicole Kidman and Billy Zane. Highly recommend it. There's definitely a dinghy with oars in that. And by dinghy, I mean boat.
Okay, thank you.
Anyways,
But I don't know, that would make sense. Like, I like the idea of, there being some sort of like original sin, or we get like maybe a flashback-y style episode that kind of shows like some of the witch trials or whatever it was way back when.
we found him, we burned him.
Cool.
We found him, we burned him. We've never been prouder.
It's a quick episode.
I love that line so much. That lady delivered it so great. Oh man, all of this.
Is that your kind of thought too? Like because I'm with you. Like the fact that they would showcase the character of the founder, I think makes sense, and I think they even call him out again in episode 2.
So, if we take like, I don't know, Ghostbusters. If we take like the vein that a show like this would come from in terms of like ghost stories that have some humor. There's always like a building of the evil or the curse. We see like the symptoms of it. It builds and builds and builds. And then our hero's job is to break it so that we can like go back to normal or people can be released. So my assumption is that's kind of where we're going. If this is like hey, it was all in his head at the end of it, which I don't think it will be, I would be disappointed. I'm like accepting that this show, that the supernatural stuff is real and it is happening, and we will have to like get into lore and solve some things. That's what I'm hoping for the show, if that makes sense.
No, I'm with you. I mean, in all honesty, I don't know if I need them to like try to solve some like puzzle to then vanish the hauntingness. Like, I think the idea of like just understanding this place
together.
is haunted. Yeah, exactly. They could live in haunted harmony.
Haunted Harmony. Haunted Harmony would be a great name for a band, Tom. All right, let's. This is all interrupted. Speaking of bands, this is interrupted by the siren sounds of a siren, which Wick is out there just cranking on. And Tom's like, hey, man, give me 5 minutes. I want to explain. This leads to one of the funnier lines where they're arguing. And Wick says, I'm not going to go tit for tit with you, which is just incredible.
Well, because it gets set up with Tom like saying like, hey, you talk, I'm not going to interrupt you regardless of what you say, and then like immediately does like the grammar thing. And I think Tom is one of those guys that's going to be the grammar police. So I loved it. And like the way he's like choking back his words because he can't speak was so good.
Oh yeah, the camera cut to Matthew Rhys, and he's like, oh, I want to say something. It's tit for tat, sir. I love that so much. We learned that all the way back in the 1800s, which I'm assuming this island, I don't know, formed in like the 1700s, but we get Wick giving us kind of the history of fog rolling in and it steals people's souls. And there's just a bunch of old weird stories, which once again, I wish I lived in a state, and this is very much New England. Everything's so old back there. And, you know, I think when people are shut into their houses for 6 months and it's just winter and cold, you start to develop some weird stories about what goes on around you. Once again, we would love to see some sort of precipitation in our young state, but
it'd be lovely.
We don't.
Also, like Wick does this like laundry list of like all these different weird stories, and I didn't write them all down, but my assumption is like those are going to be the different haunts we're going to see throughout the series, right? Like, because I think he mentions the clown, and then we get the clown in episode 2. But there's probably some of these other stories are going to manifest in future episodes.
Yeah, I didn't list them either. I'd have to go back and look at them, but that would make sense to me that they telegraph what's happening. And I love it. I love it. The conversation ends with Tom kind of explaining to Wick what he's trying to do in terms of like, hey, this place is dying, like you shouting and sounding the siren, especially when the journalist is here, is not the way for us to grow. And we get this weird bit where Wick is like, hey, I don't believe in you to lead this town. And it's like, well, Wick, you should have run for office then, sir. He ran uncontested. And Wick's reasoning is, I think part of it is, if you're a townie and Tom being a summer kid that only showed up, he's not originally from the island, I think there's always going to be that animosity. You're not from here. And then he tells the story of, when you were a kid running around with the locals and you would doorbell ditch, you would always pretend to do it and that you're a coward. And I would argue, maybe he was just polite, I don't know. Does cowardice as a child make you a coward as a man? Yes, in my case, but it doesn't have to be in Tom's case,
No, I tend to agree. It did seem like an odd catalyst for the story. I'm with you. It's more about you're an other because you came from the outside, and he potentially, as Tom, has the chance to leave this island where Wick does not.
Yeah. Maybe Tom should just leave the island. I guess he'd have to leave his son. I think that's fine. I think he just leaves the island. Evan can grow up there. This all ends with Shep showing up, 37-year-old Shep showing up and falling on his face. And everything's good. We cut to the hospital where this doctor is in. I think this doctor, he played a very unique role in the William Shatner show Boston Legal years ago, but this doctor was fabulous. He's 30 seconds on screen, and I loved him. He was great.
There was violations talking about the medications and status of this person, but he was pretty funny.
He's like, I gave him so much. I probably shouldn't have given him that much. I don't know why I'm telling you guys this. It was wonderful. This leads to Tom visiting Shep in his hospital bed, which I think this was probably the creepiest, other than maybe the restaurant later, that the show got this episode. Which, if this is the level, I'm okay with it. My wife did not like the clown. I'll tell you that right now. Which is crazy because, Tom, I'm kind of into clowns, so I don't really know how we've made this marriage work for all these years. But anyways, we'll go down that road later when we crawl into the crawl space. But we have Shep's blood work. And one of Tom's earlier reasonings as to why Shep disappeared was that he was a drunk, and he probably just was, tying one on. And instead, we find out the blood work's clear. He's 37, and I don't like, and I appreciate the craft in it. I don't like, because it brings out the cowardice in me. I don't like when you see something happening over a character's shoulder that they don't notice. So when they show us the wide eyes and Tom's reading the chart, you're just turn around. I don't like that feeling. That's just...
The framing was so good because it wasn't one of those things there's a zombie movie where you see the blurry zombie in the background laying down and then slowly prop up while the main character's looking at you. But in this one, the way it was framed, Tom's head was completely covering Shep's face behind, but you knew there was something going on. The way the music was kind of crescendoing, and then he slowly leans back, and then you see the white of the eyes. The quick turn of Shep's head was so terrifying. Great. I mean, brilliant suspense show writing.
Yeah, no, they did a great job. It looks great. We get some strangling. Of Tom, and then Shep promptly dies. I don't know. I like this. So this, we have evidence that this truly happened. Shep woke up, tried to attack Tom. Other people come in and pull him off the floor. So this can't all be in Tom's head. This has got to be real, which I think has now led Tom. I think this is kind of the turning point for him where he's starting to give in to what's happening outside of this world. And it's something he doesn't understand, because we next see him looking at his computer, staring at this giant cloud of fog, which I would love to know what weather app that is. My weather app only sees fog that's high up in the sky. We call them clouds. And I thought it was interesting. Patricia comes in and she's like, hey, you're going to be late for dinner. You're going to be late for dinner. You're going to be 15 minutes late. And Tom's not moving. And it took me a bit to realize he's scared. This is him. He doesn't want to leave the house. Or the office, I guess.
Yeah, he's just stalling for time because he doesn't know what's going on, and he doesn't know where this fog is. And once we get it later. But again, I feel yeah, maybe this is the catalyst or whatever would happen with Shep, but I feel like he's believed this for a while.
Right. And I think to your question earlier, which was really my question earlier of what the siren's for, I think we sound the siren when there's fog so people stay inside. Because if you're inside, and we see it when Tom shouts later on, stay inside because there's something in the fog, I think that's what that siren is for. We have a lovely conversation with Arthur and Tom. They have Kathy as their waitress, which I love. And Arthur loves the island. He's like, it's very quaint. It should be the next Martha's Vineyard. I don't understand why. Cut with this is Kathy. Their order is up. But Kathy's like, I'm going to go have a cigarette. Which, once again, cigarettes are cool, kids. I just want to point that out.
It's so good. And I love how she like goes to the back door to have a cigarette, and the way the camera shoots her, it's like, oh, look, fog. Like, when we all as an audience know the fog is like a terrifying thing, and she's just excited to go walk out into it. And then they play on the trope later where she kind of comes in at the end, and you think she's going to like attack Tom or something, but no, she's fine.
Yep. In fact, I would argue she's going to go add to that fog. She's going to go burn a couple darts and just add to the fog, which
maybe smoking is the fog's like nemesis.
Oh, is this whole show just an anti-smoking commercial? Is that what we're watching?
No, you use the smoke to blow back the fog.
Oh, I got you. I thought smoking made fog and fog is bad. All right. We'll get on the same page eventually. This is then where Arthur brings up, hey, man, have you heard that if you're born here, you can't leave? And Tom kind of plays that's ridiculous. I've been to the mainland a bunch of times. And Arthur, as a smart journalist, asks the second question. And he's like, but you weren't born here, were you? And so I'm interested in that legend. I'm interested in, once again, did his wife leave at some point? Did they go to the mainland and then something tragic happened to her and he like retreated back because
that makes sense.
Like that fear is deep down in his bones. This leads to power outage. People try to leave. Tom is like trying to, and this is something Matthew Rhys does really well. The like, I'm trying to stay calm, but I'm terrified and panicked, and like playing that out. I was very impressed, and this leads to him screaming, there's something in the fog, and everyone being like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, and to your point, Arthur is then like, hey, you don't have to do this for me. Like, I'm going to write a nice article. You don't have to play up the gimmick.
Well, and you had brought up like Jaws too, and I think the showrunner had brought this up in like an interview that I read of talking like the concept of like, hey, there's something in the water, there's something in the fog, and like the small town like mayor that is not believing a thing definitely has a lot of Jaws parallels and vibes.
Oh, I would love it if there's a shark in the fog in this one, and we just keep getting eaten. Yeah,
it's Sharknado style. Yeah,
we have the restaurant being closed down, which, oh man, I'm not sitting alone in a weird, creepy restaurant. That's what I'm not doing. I know there's fog outside, but this is not where I'm hanging out. I'm like running to my car and driving home. They do a great cut with Kathy where they, to your point, make her seem like she's bad. All of this to pan down, I don't know, conservatively 20 stories underneath the ground to a really well-maintained electric chair. Like, not dusty, could have been used the day before, Tom. Seemed to be in real good shape. What's going on here?
I mean, most small town restaurants have an electric chair in their basement, but yeah, this one seemed deeper, where it's a bit more menacing than the normal restaurant electric chair.
Right, that one's for under tipping or sending a steak back that's not cooked just perfectly.
Yeah.
I gotcha. My assumption that this is like, hey, this town is built on like some dark history, and so we're showing you what lies beneath. I don't know that I needed it. I only need it if it's going to come into play in some like very important way later, but I thought it was an interesting way to end it, and then they kind of zoom in on this weird door and then it cuts, which I thought they did a nice job of. So
yeah, my assumption is going to be part of like one of the many stories or haunts, like somebody coming up from an electric chair, just like this clown came from wherever he did. So I can't imagine that's just an eerie sense of symbolism. It's got to come up in the show later.
Right. Well, I appreciated them dropping 2 episodes. I would have been stoked just watching the first one and having to wait a week, but I'm glad that they dropped the second one, and we're going to roll right into it after these messages. All right, Tom, let's roll into episode 2. This one was called Lodging, and since you were so delighted by them, I will allow you to give the Apple official summary.
Yes, cherish the historical charm of our local inn, which Mayor Loftus will prove is safe by spending a night there alone.
This was a big no for me, Tom. This is a big no for me, dog. I'm not spending any time alone in a haunted anything ever, unless I get to pick the weapons and the body armor, and I don't know, you give me a Gatorade bottle to pee in and a Gatorade bottle to drink out of that are both clearly labeled as to which one is which. Then I would do this. I don't know what it is. Old churches are inherently creepy. This episode started with the church bells ringing in an old church. I wanted to ask you this. The actor that plays the Reverend, who we'll meet a little bit later in that, he's in a ton of stuff. I didn't take the time to look him up, but he does a fabulous job with the 2 scenes he's in and this. And kind of, to your point, I think we're like, there's a church bell haunt coming down the road that wasn't explored in this one, but is definitely coming in future episodes, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like, because I didn't even clock it when he does a little bit later of looking at the bell that's all like
chained up,
stringed together and fine. Like, I didn't realize the episode started with kind of the bell chiming. I thought it was just a one-off thing that Tom said. So I love the creepiness. And yeah, I do not know this actor's name, but 1000% I'm like, oh, that's that guy from that thing. I just don't know what thing that is.
Right. Tom, I've got one more question for you. For whom do the bells toll?
They toll for thee, my man.
Okay. Thank you. I actually didn't know that had an answer, but let's move on. I love there's some parallels between this show and Rooster, and maybe it's just like recency bias, but Tom has these printed island tourist booklets, and Patricia's poem was left out of them, and I thought that was very funny.
It was so funny. Yeah, very much like it for those of you who are listening to our Rooster podcast as well. The comedy on HBO with Steve Carell and John C. McGinley. Walt's character, John C. McGinley's character, is always trying to get his poems in the the college review.
The college review. And they're always about the Irish and famines and different things like this. Tom, serious question, very serious question. Mayor Tom definitely cut her poem out of this, right? The way that he looks when she's like, oh, they didn't print my poem again. He made that editing decision, right?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of harsh. I mean, give the lady her poem. I mean, we don't know what the subject is. Maybe it's about witches burning them, so maybe he was trying to hold back that. But yeah, let her have her poetry moment.
We found him. We burned him. I love it. We go to a coffee shop, and this is, I don't know what the time jump is between first episode and this one, but we are essentially, the article has come out. There is some buzz, and so people are now coming to the island, and so we've added a fancy coffee shop. This also leads to the inn, which has been, I guess, refurbished in one way, shape, or form. The Wick boarding up the door of the inn, very funny. I enjoyed this very much. Poorly, yes. The end of this scene where the innkeeper opens the door and the board is just boarded across it, I thought was a great comedic moment. But
it was so good.
All of this is Wick seems to be a little bit tipsy. Maybe he's had a couple, but he's shouting about how the inn is haunted. He doesn't want people to go in there, and this leads to the confrontation with Mayor Tom, him calling Mayor Tom a coward, and that he's not one of us, and also Tom saying I don't know why Tom gets the bad rap. This feels like Wick started the name calling, but Tom in the end calls him like a country bumpkin, and I guess that insult is kind of a reflection on all the locals, and maybe that's why they've turned on him. But once again, this ended so well, like with the innkeeper opening the door and the board, that I'm still thinking about it, Tom. I'm still thinking about the internet showing me the scene in Signs where Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix are boarding up a door, but the door opens the other way. So the wood they put on the door in Signs doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go from there to Tom is talking with the Reverend, who the Reverend doesn't seem very serious about his Reverend job. He seems to be kind of, maybe he's just collecting his Reverend pension while he's like waiting his time out. But Tom mentions the bell waking people up, and the Reverend is immediately like, that's impossible. And we find out later that it's impossible because, I don't know, the maintenance guy, were they afraid the bell was going to get stolen? Why did they chain it up because it was tolling on its own? And they were like, well, we're going to chain this ghost bell up. What was implied here? Why was it chained?
Yeah, I mean, my assumption is it is like a haunted kind of a thing. So they are trying to stop it with all their might, but then I would say maybe just take the whole thing down. But it's also weird that like the Reverend didn't hear it, and we don't know if there are any other characters in town that heard this bell, or was it only in Tom's head?
I thought he said it woke up Evan. I thought he said he woke up his kid, but maybe I'm misremembering that. But yeah, that's a good point. Like, why didn't the Reverend hear it? But it's getting weird, Tom. That's all I'll say. It's getting weird, and the bells are chiming for though. Oh, the term he used was dumb hick. That's what he used, Tom.
Which is funny. Me and my wife are rewatching Veep right now.
Sure.
And it made me think very much of like the whoops moment about saying what you really think about your constituents and people that vote for you to their faces. It doesn't always go well. So yeah.
Selena Myers, one of the greatest American politicians to ever make her way into power. All right. We have Tom having this discussion with the locals, and like they're upset that he yelled at Wick, and they bring up the inn, and he's like, listen, there's nothing wrong with the inn, which leads to like a schoolyard dare where they're like, if you're not afraid of the inn, why don't you go stay in it? And them naming off all of the bad things that have happened in the inn. Like, the idea that you have so much local history because you've spent your whole life there and it's just such a contained community, and these would be the stories you would tell each other, you know, as you have your third beer. Like, hey, have you heard about the clown William? You know, I loved all of this. This was very funny. And him then writing them down and taking it serious, which... I don't know. Based on how much he was afraid in the end of the first episode, I guess a little bit of time has given him some of his courage back, because end of the episode, Matt Rhys would not have taken this challenge on, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I love how not only is it like, hey, you got to do all this stuff, but hey, you got to do it tonight and immediately. Right. And you got to bring an old school like recording camera to do all this and not use your phone, which I always love that idea of like using old tech in these kind of shows. Sure. It just adds that layer of horror. Yep.
I did very much love when someone said something about like the murdered clown, and he's like, he went around murdering clowns? That seems oddly specific. And they were like, no, he was a guy dressed as a clown murdering people. And it's like, oh, I love it.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. So that's the premise of 2, which I very much enjoyed. Once again, this is a hard no for me, but Tom having to stay in the inn is great. He sends Evan to go stay with Ruth, and there's this very funny moment where he's like, I'm going to be at the inn, you go stay with Ruth, and the kid's like, no. And then the kid has this moment of like, oh, I definitely know how to sneak out, I'll be able to do this, this, and this. And Tom clocks it, and he's like, wait, what did you just concoct in your head? I really appreciated that moment between parent and child.
Yeah, agreed. I would imagine we're going to get more of Evan and like some little side stories from it. And I don't mind it. I know you said you're not necessarily interested in maybe the kids' story of it all, but I do think it could be interesting.
No, I am enjoying the dynamic as a parent myself. It is funny to like think of the conversations you would have and how silly it would be to be like, Yeah, the townspeople dared me to stay in the inn, so I got to take this old camcorder and I'll be there tonight. You've got to go stay with the family friend. And your kid being like, what's wrong with you? Just say no. Like, so we're at the inn. I really enjoy the actor that plays the innkeeper. I think he does a really good job of being like slightly off, but still like running this inn. And we see Tom staring at this.
I think this guy, before we move on, I think this guy was from that Ghostbusters reboot.
Okay.
So maybe he had a relationship with Katie Dippold, who wrote that movie.
He looks like a guy that has interacted with ghosts or strongly believes in ghosts and will tell you about it at some point. This painting of babies being swept up in the sea, incredible. I'd love a copy.
I mean, he did take down all the offensive ones, so the fact that this one stayed up is wild.
I love it. I love it. He gets the keys to the captain's suite, and I love a lighthouse. The lighthouse light coming through the window is a great like horror touch and really adds to it. And this moment where he walks him up to his room, but the innkeeper won't enter the room.
Just kicks his suitcase into the room.
Kicks his suitcases into the room, and then he's like, if you need anything, call me at home. And the terror on Tom's face, he's like, wait, you're not going to be here? I'm going to be here alone? Oh, man, I love it. I love it. As I mentioned earlier, Tom, if I did this, there's no amount of guns that I would not take with me to hang out in this room.
Yeah, but how effective are guns on ghosts? It's a question.
I'm willing to. I don't know, but I feel better about it. I mean, I'm willing to try. You may come back. I'll be dead, but there'll just be bullet holes throughout the whole hotel
in the shape of a human.
Yep. Well, I don't know if I caught this, but there was like a cut with the Reverend, and he's opening a bunch of letters, or this is like a, hey, in case this happens, open this letter sort of thing. Like, this is
break in case of emergency kind of deal. I'm assuming, there's like religious undertones to all these hauntings and stuff that were going on that maybe were trying to be exorcised or something. So now that the sirens are going, the bell's going, he has some instructions as the local reverend he's got to follow.
Right. I'm interested to see that haunt. Like, I'm excited for that one. I like how they're telegraphing these things. And Tom starts to stay at the inn with watching the Welcome to Widow's Bay video, which is something this was played as like a preview for the show, and I watched it, and it's literally just the video of this old guy. And I was like, well, that's really weird, but I'm kind of into it. And then him watching it and it seems like the only thing on the TV. I don't know. Very creepy.
It was all incredible. And him just like walking off in the distance. Camera doesn't move, so it's like just on a tripod. He's filming potentially by himself. Like, it has very much like Ring vibes, right? Like
right.
When they used to watch that video and then 7 Days, whatever else. It was creepy and brilliantly done.
Right. And then we'll just talk about it now. At some point, he like flicks through the channels and that guy is like back. There's like a quick cut of him back, like all disheveled in front of the camera. And then there's like a silhouette of a person or a creature of some kind. All very creepy. Once again,
is he the captain? This is in the captain's room. Is that the pretense of what shows up on screen later?
He wasn't dressed like a captain. I don't know.
Well, I mean, don't stereotype captains. They can dress however they want.
Well, I mean, Captain Crunch, the greatest captain. I mean, he's got a certain look to him.
That big blue hat. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. The boredom that our friend Tom has to face as he deals with this night leads to him going down to kind of the common room, and he's looking through all the board games. And the board game names are incredible. One's just called Teeth, and the other one's called Run. And it's just like, don't,
Not yet.
run.
Not yet.
That's so good.
Like, even like, I mean, I loved Teeth as a kid. That was such a fun game.
Did. We all loved Teeth as a kid.
But like the Run card bit is like, again, another show would have, the second he did the Run, like a cat would jump into the room and have like a jump scare, or something would fall off, like a painting would fall off the wall. But I appreciate this show didn't really do that. They just kept building up the suspense, even when it did say Run as he pulled the card.
Right.
So good.
Right. Oh, great. I would love to know the rules to Run. and teeth, honestly. We have the honor system booze, which comes into play later, which I think is very clever because it's like, he says, hey, you're on the honor system if you take a drink, but I'm also watching with a camera. And so it gives a reason as to why there would be a security camera.
Right.
And I know it's like a showism. You could laugh it off as like, but the way they like build it into this innkeeper would do this honor system because he's not on site.
Exactly.
But he would have a camera. I thought that was very clever, and I appreciated that it makes sense in a weird way. This leads to Tom doing all of the haunting stuff on his list, which I never would have. He does like ugly Hortons, which you like go into the closet and say 3 times. He's just he's knocking them all down. Good for him. Very brave man. I would never. Yeah. And he finally goes down to the cellar and he like looks around, he looks at the hole and he's like, not a chance. And he goes up. So it's interesting that was his threshold. He did all the other things, but not that.
Yep. I will do anything for a haunt, but I won't do that.
But I won't do that. No, sir. He calls Ruth. Ruth seems to be elderly, as one who's named Ruth would be.
My niece is named Ruth.
I know. But I believe
great.
You guys say
lovely,
Ruthie.
old-timey name.
Ruthie makes it a little bit, younger.
Hip.
Hip. That's true.
But then I think he makes his way back into his room, and then he sees the window curtain closed, or back open after he had closed it with the lighthouse kind of coming in. So he like kind of clocks it, and he's starting to freak out a bit.
Right. I just want to continue on the subject of Ruth, where he like asks where Evan is, and you could just hear her like wandering the house, and she kind of like loses track that she's even on the phone, and then he just hangs up. I really enjoyed that bit. We have him hearing a party happening through the grate in the bathroom, which very much Shining vibes on that one. As well as we meet his neighbor in the hallway, whose name is William. And you were immediately on top of this, huh?
Oh, 1,000% of ghosts, like right away. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that thought, but I was in for it. I appreciated that rather than just having him like disappear and then reappear at the end, they give him the board game time, which I thought was a nice bit of just building up the suspense as well as giving a reason for Tom to lay out kind of his backstory. And so
and the backstory that he provides is like something that like Tom wants, right? Like, oh, I'm a structural engineer, help to test out the docks. Like, so it's like almost Tom manifesting in his mind the person that he would want to be coming to this island as somebody that's going to help build it up.
Right, exactly. And I really love that they are having this conversation while playing Daddy's Home, which it's like a cartoon picture of a dad shouting at the children. It's like Daddy's Home, and it's not a good thing. I very much love this. This is like a 1930s dad who gets drunk at the office and comes home and slaps the kids around.
Go back 3 spaces.
Yeah. Oh, so funny. So funny. But this is where we find out that Tom is originally from Massachusetts, spent the summers there. He met his wife in Widow's Bay, and he had a father who I guess was from the island, wasn't a very good man, which is why we're playing Daddy's Home. And his dad would always tell him these like horror stories, the haunt stories. And so he's got all that built up up from when he was a kid. And so all of this coming to surface now, I don't know. I think they did this quite well in terms of kind of explaining why Tom is both skeptical but also buying in and terrified at the same time.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of calling the dad calling him soft when he was 6. I call my son soft all the time, but I want him to be mayor material. So
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You call them soft at 6, they grow up to be hidden soft and the mayor of a small island town. That's good. That's good. We see the ghost of William start to come out, where all of a sudden he starts saying some very terrible things about the townspeople, which you can almost see, because this is William the Clown that murdered a bunch of people back in the day. And so the idea being that this professional came out to visit the island, like had a bad interaction with the townspeople. Not that it justified him in murdering a bunch of people, but you can kind of... I like the details they've put here to lead us to this moment. And then William's like, I'm off to bed. Good night. And I think he like falls on the steps as he goes up, which I thought was great.
Yeah. But this ultimately gives, as I said, the liquid courage that he had from this conversation leads Tom back to the cellar, which was my least favorite part of the episode, but still done very well.
There's not enough money or guns that I would go into that crawl space. Just so, even from like a cleanliness, the cobwebs, the dust, no thank you. And he crawls back there, he finds a body, right? There's like a body against the wall.
I think the idea is that is the William, like that is the body of the clown that is like there, and that's why he's potentially haunting this establishment, as I guess the way I read it. I mean, Pop goes back there later, the sheriff does, and he doesn't find anything, so I don't know what to make of it, if it is all truly in Tom's head, but that was my take. I thought it had like clothes that were clownish on the skeleton.
Okay. I appreciated the cut where you hear William and then you just see his legs and you're like, oh, he's definitely in a clown costume. And then he like crawls in and all of this leads to him. Tom just wakes up in bed, right? Like he's being attacked and then he's in bed. When do they discover the black mold? That's after the sheriff and the innkeeper come back? Is that right?
Yeah, they're kind of doing a run of the house, trying to figure out what's going on. Sheriff looks in the crawl space, doesn't find anything, and then I think they check the cameras, don't see anything, and then that's where they go up and realize, like, hey, like, let's check out this captain's room, and then kind of challenge the innkeeper to go in said room.
Right, which was a very interesting moment, because to your point, you could say, oh, he hallucinated this because of, I don't know how black mold works. I've had it on toast before, but I've never like lived in a room with it. You could say, but then we get this thing where they keep putting the innkeeper and counting down, and he like, there's like a time difference between him being in the room and them letting him out, which I would maybe ask a couple of questions in this moment. The innkeeper's just like, I'm out. Like, I don't know. This was weird.
Well, because he stayed in there, for like 10 seconds and counted it off. It seemed like the way he responds when they open is like he's been in there for like hours or minutes or something like that. And then for them to immediately close the door again for 30 seconds, again, probably like a bit of a showism, but then the room is just completely turned upside down, like glass is broken, yet they heard nothing from the outside. So again, still some weird timey-wimey thing. But yeah, the innkeeper just gets out of the room and goes away. Doesn't really say much more.
Yeah, I don't think black mold works that quickly, so I don't think the sheriff and the innkeeper are hallucinating. But once again, I like how the show is like putting this, hey, maybe there's a logical or a reasonable explanation for this. But I thought this was really well done, and I really enjoyed the innkeeper's look of, like, they explain it a little bit, but you have to pick up, like, oh, like time is different once that door shuts.
Yeah.
And this episode then ends with Wick and Tom eyeballing each other as he's like left the inn and Wick has, I guess, left the drunk take. Does Tom not drive? I feel like we've seen Tom drive. Why is Patricia always picking him up and dropping him off? What's happening here?
I don't know if we have seen him drive, so maybe that is the thing. He has a chauffeur. I mean, we know we saw in the first episode that car flipped over, so maybe he's had an accident himself, or maybe it was an accident he had with his wife, maybe on the mainland. I don't know, but I would venture we'll get more of it. That's
fair. Tom, what's more terrifying, a 37-year-old old man trying to strangle you from his hospital bed, or a man dressed as a clown trying to kill you in the crawl space of a hotel?
I think there's an obvious answer, and it's the old man.
Okay, it's the young old man, the 37-year-old trying to murder you. Interesting. In my house, the vote was definitely clown in the crawl space. There's some people in my house that do not care for clowns.
No, clowns and dolls were my fears as a kid. So yes, it's definitely the clown.
Have you overcome them now, or are you still weary around clowns?
I mean, they're okay. I'm not going to hang out with a clown. I feel like dolls were the bigger one, like the Chucky and Child's Play thing.
Sure.
So if they bring a haunted doll into this, I may be punching out.
What I appreciate about you, Tom, is you're a guy that has always confronted your fears. So you took the doll making class in college. In fact, you majored in doll making, and then you got a master's at clown college, which you became what you feared the most. You saw Batman, and you're like, he could use bats. I'll use clowns, and that's how you fought crime for all these years. For those of you that have joined us, we appreciate you. We know that this is a long one. We recover in 2 episodes. If you're enjoying this show, and by that I mean Widow's Bay, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out, give us some thoughts. I'm sure there's stuff we missed. This is the type of show that honestly deserves a second viewing because I'm sure there are a lot of background clues and stuff to catch. It's very detailed, and these are the types of shows that Tom and I appreciate. But you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. If you would be so kind and you like what we do here, we would also appreciate rating and reviewing us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That helps out. Tom, what about the social stuff that I'm not allowed to touch?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, if you are kind enough to leave us a 5-star review, we will read that on pod. So if you want your name read by us goofballs, please do so. And it helps us grow the show, so we appreciate it. But yeah, follow us on social media at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast on all the big ones. Let us know what you think of the show. Please go check out our back catalog. We got a lot of fun other shows. This whole podcast started with us doing a Ted Lasso pod, which I think Ted Lasso has been just recently named to come back for a season 4 in August. So we're pretty excited about that. We've got Silo coming out soon. So if you're just joining us for this one, definitely go check out our back catalog and you to join us for these fun little adventures.
Wonderful. For Team Binge not being haunted, I have been Julian.
And I, as a member of Team Wick, have been Tom. Till next week, everybody.